So right now, AI is absolutely everywhere. It's the hottest thing within the stock market by an absolute mile. Every company is trying to factor AI into their business model in one way or another. And even the mainstream news media outlets are talking about AI as well. But here's the thing. What if I told you that we could be right on the edge of a massive market crash? And we could be right on the edge of the AI bubble bursting into pieces. And in this video, I'm going to be revealing why you should probably hold off putting all your life savings into the latest craze of AI stocks. Okay, so I believe that history is going to repeat itself once again. So take a look at this chart right here. Now this is the NASDAQ Composite Index. And you can see over the long term, I think it's fair to say that this has been a pretty sensible place to put your cash and a very intelligent investment. So if you'd bought into this index way back in 1991 and sold off your shares in 2025, you would absolutely be quids in without a shadow of a doubt. However, I actually want to draw your attention to this little section of the chart right here. Now this right here is the infamous .com bubble. So the peak of this chart was in March of the year 2000, where the index hit 5,050 points. And in the 5 years that were leading up to this peak, the NASDAQ Composite Index was averaging about 40% returns each year, which is absolutely massive and enormous, and it was unsustainable growth. However, as we all know, what came next was a huge market crash. And for the next 2.5 years, the market pretty much went into a crazy free fall in a downwards direction. So from its peak of 5,048 points down to its low of 1,139 points, the index ended up crashing all in all by about 78%, which obviously is absolutely enormous. And of course, as a result of all this, what was going on, there was massive bankruptcies as loads of .com bubble businesses all went out of business, and therefore loads of people lost their jobs, and it was quite a nasty environment to be in once that market started to crash and the bubble, which was the .com bubble, started to implode. Now the amazing thing I think about all this is it actually took 15 years for the market to once again reach that peak that was hit in the year 2000. So it took until about April or March of 2015, I think it was, for that peak to once again get hit within this NASDAQ Composite Index. Now if we zoom out fully, we can now see that the index is at about 21,000 points. So what's the relevance to this story that I'm telling you, I can hear you asking? Well, fast forward to now, AI has become the new internet of the 1990s. Investors are piling billions and billions of dollars into this AI bubble, and all these AI companies chasing the rewards of these mystical, magical profits from this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In a similar sort of way to what was happening within the 1990s, when every man, woman and their dog was buying into this .com thing and all these new internet companies what were popping up here, there and everywhere, history's once again repeating itself, but this time under the guise of AI. So you might be asking to yourself then, well, what is causing the market to continually increase and all the hype to continue going on about AI and ChatGPT and Google's Gemini and every other AI company under the sun? Well, what I think is happening personally is human psychology is driving the market, and fear and panic and just overreaction and mass delusion is driving the price in these AI companies to sky high levels, if that makes sense. So like we've touched on, this has all happened before. The most notable case was in the early 2000s when the .com bubble crashed. And in my opinion, the same sort of things were happening. Mass delusion where everyone was overhyping this new thing, what was just unfathomable at the time. Same thing with AI. People are seeing this as a once in a lifetime opportunity. The fear of missing out is setting in. Herd mentality and crowd mentality. Mass delusion as a whole, and it's all just taking hold of the market, and it's completely overinflating what the price should be within these AI companies. So in my opinion, people have started to completely lose track of common sense with it, and people are no longer asking about the valuations of the company and where they should be and whether this represents value, and they're just asking crazy questions like how high can this go, which is completely unsustainable over the long term. And markets like this, which are always built on hype and overinflation and psychology, human psychology driving them, always eventually crash under the weight of reality. At least that's what I've seen looking back throughout history. Now, it's not just psychological factors which are pointing to the mass delusion which is going on in the market. We can also look at the actual mathematics and the fundamentals behind this AI bubble, in my opinion, as well. Now, one of the clearest signs is the price to book ratio. Now this metric compares the price investors are paying for a stock versus the actual value of its underlying assets. So right now the S&P 500, the US stock market, is trading at a price to book ratio of around 5 to 3. This means that investors are happy and they're willing to pay more than 5 to 3 times what those companies are actually worth on paper. And again, guess where we saw this exact kind of thing before? The year 2000, where the market crashed into a massive downfall with all these dot-com businesses going out of business, or a large percentage of them completely failing. And even at that time, the ratio was actually even smaller than it is now. It was actually 5 to 1 at that point where the dot-com bubble crashed. And it's not just price to book either. Price to earnings ratios are overinflated like crazy on some of these AI giants and these big AI companies. And as well as that, the market is heavily weighted by a few big, massive, monstrous AI companies as well. So that means if just one or maybe two of these companies start to see a significant sell-off with their share prices, the whole market as a whole could be significantly affected. Now let me just be clear before we move on. I do believe that AI is the future, 100%. Just like the internet within the 1990s, I believe that it will completely transform and revolutionise the way we live and communicate and work and all those kind of things. But here's the catch, I don't believe we're anywhere near that point relative to all the hype that's going on with AI. Just think about the dot-com bubble and the internet in the 90s, for example. Everyone thought that the businesses would be revolutionised overnight with this new technology. But as we know, it just didn't happen that way. It didn't happen in a linear kind of way like that. First off, people were even afraid of buying things online. People wouldn't buy clothes online at one point using the internet. And then as technology advanced, then it became about privacy, and people were worried that these big social media websites were stealing people's data and using it against them. And there were many stumbling blocks along the way for the internet. It didn't just move in a linear line in terms of how the hype and the bubble around it was sort of working, if that makes sense. So from a technological standpoint, each innovation takes time and an adaptation process needs to occur. And the same from a consumer standpoint for human beings consuming it as well. We as humans don't like change, and it takes us time to evolve and try new things and things of that nature. So this process of new technology growing takes a long period of time, and it doesn't just move in a linear way like the hype would have you believe. If you really think about it, most businesses haven't really figured out a way to integrate it into their businesses as a whole, other than sticking powered with AI on the box of the product that they're selling. ChatGPT will feed information back to you as gospel, and it will definitively tell you the answer to a question or a query that you've asked. And quite a lot of the time, it'll just be completely wrong with the feedback that it's providing to you. So for me personally, I do believe that AI will completely reshape the way that we operate as a society and as the human race in general. But I think it'll take much more time to occur than what the hype is having you believe. And I certainly won't be betting the bank on these profits and these companies to skyrocket even further, because I think a crash is going to be right around the corner. So let me know what your opinion is on this AI bubble, or maybe not an AI bubble, depending on which way you go. Let me know down below in the comment section of this video. And if you want to know the top 5 wealth drainers that could be seriously impacting your bottom line and your finances, then check out this video. It's just popping up on screen right now. And I'll let you in on the top 5 things that you should avoid to make as much money as possible and live a happier lifestyle. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your time as always, and I'll see you again in the next video.